welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and we have some more Doctor Who spoilers here. And of course, as I usually do, we're going to talk about some legendary creatures. There's a lot more coming out from this set than I thought there was going to be. I hadn't planned on making a whole lot of spoiler videos, if any. I made one a while back talking about a few commanders they spoiled very early on. I already made a video about some very impactful 99 cards that we are getting. There's going to be a lot of impactful stuff from this set. Like I already said in that video, this set is going to be a lot more impactful for the commander format than I had originally thought. So let's talk about some commanders that we might be seeing in the near future. Starting out with Jenny Generated Anomaly. And again, just pointing out, I know absolutely nothing about Doctor Who. I will be evaluating these cards entirely on their face and nothing more. So 2 red and a white, Time Lord Soldier 2/3 with double strike. Whenever Jenny deals combat damage to a player, it explores. So that is a very interesting ability. And of course it has double strike. So when you get in for twice as much damage, you're going to get twice as much of the triggers, right? I think I said this about Rafika the Many in a 5 cards video a while back. I'm like, everyone does the Voltron strategy there, but any creature that has those combat damage triggers, like a Cold-Eyed Selkie, is going to be extra good there because you can give it the double strike. So you get twice the combat damage triggers, and you will here as well. So the really interesting part here is the colors they chose for this. If I saw that ability and didn't know anything else, I would say like black green maybe, or maybe red black. You're doing a self-mill. It's sort of like almost like Surveil. I mean, let's read it here. Reveal the top card of your library. Put the card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Then put the card back or put it into your graveyard. So similar to Surveil. I guess it's a little different. Maybe not so much. I don't know. It just feels weird as a board. Like this is our first Explore commander. I would have never guessed our first Explore commander would have been red and white. Those are definitely interesting color combinations for this ability. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying it's not what I would have expected. Because of that, obviously you want to get in for damage with your commander, but because of that ability is actually doing a lot. Like the top deck manipulation thing, as I say all the time, Sensei's Demanding Top, all that kind of stuff, you're for sure going to want to put in here. What else are you going to want to do? I mean, you might be putting lands into your hand a lot. So maybe a Walking Atlas. Of course, you can't do exploration effects because you're not in green. So a Walking Atlas might be good to put lands into play extra quickly. We're putting counters on your commander, which of course is great because it's got double strike. So maybe you're in a little bit of a Voltron strategy. I don't know if I would go down that road too much. You can also throw stuff in your graveyard. So you can build around that a little bit too as well. Again, we're in Boros colors, so not exactly graveyard colors, but you could do a little bit there. It's interesting. It's very open-ended. I actually like it a lot. All right, let's move on to Sally Sparrow, 2 white and a blue, Human Detective 2/3. You may cast creature spells as though they had flash. Hey, there's build an entire deck around that. That alone is enough to actually build a deck around. And again, as I say all the time, I mean, Yeva, right? The old mono green commander, that was a commander that used to get played a lot. Just, I cast my green creatures with flash, right? That was enough to build the deck around. And again, that back in the day, a commander like that, if that came out with just that ability, everyone would be building around it because there's a lot you can do there. Casting your stuff with flash is always a massive advantage in the commander format. I mean, in any format it is, but even more so in the commander format because you have, so many different opponents, right? And of course, that's why Leyline of Anticipation and those cards have always been popular in the commander format for that reason. I will just say, if you got an Afara deck, anyone out there with a Afara deck, Sally Sparrow is probably going in the 99. Again, there's always the 99 scenarios that these commanders will be going in as well, right? So what else do we got? Whenever one or more other creatures you control leave the battlefield, investigate. This ability triggers only once each turn. And of course, this harkens back to my Dennick deck, which also has the investigate trigger only once each turn thing, slightly different. Would that go in? Oh man, I guess I would be putting this in the 99 of that deck, right? Because that whenever I sacrifice a creature, that is one or more other creatures I control leaving the battlefield. So, yep, seems like a pretty good fit there. I'm, doing the investigate theme already, so I guess I might have to find room for this in that deck. And if you're building this deck, probably want Dennick there. Dennick is cards in graveyard, and this is only creatures you control, whereas with Dennick, it's my opponents as well. But there's a lot of overlap, right? The Venn diagram overlaps a lot there where you will be getting double triggers a lot. Yours dies, you get double clue tokens, right? And as I say all the time about my Denic deck, don't worry about trigger only once each turn, right? And you could build this deck very similar. And I guess this is also a leave the battlefield trigger, so you could just play a blink deck here, right? If you're looking for because white, blue obviously are the best colors for blinking. If you're looking for a new commander to do the blinking theme, this is a great way to do it. I don't know if the Investigate fits with the blinking there. Again, maybe your Raynar deck also wants this because it's probably doing that a lot, right? There's probably a lot of, like Brago probably wants this in the 99. There's probably a lot of blink decks could easily slot this into the 99. And hey, look, I get to cast my creatures with flash as well. Why not, right? Because those strategies tend to be creature heavy. If I'm building around this though, again, you could do it just like I do with my Denic deck where I have a Selfless Savior. I can use that to protect my commander, which I would do anyway, but then it also gives me the trigger, right? So it's really difficult for my opponents to get my Sally Sparrow or, my Denic off the battlefield because I have all those creature protection options that are also triggering my commander that I will be doing on my opponent's turn. And then on top of that, as I say all the time, white does the small creature recursion theme very well with Return to the Ranks and cards like that. So you again, that's what I'm doing there. Maybe you can go check out that deck if you want to build Sally. If you're a big fan of this character from the show, whoever it is, there's an option for you if you want to do that. All right, let's talk about Astrid Path, 1 in a white, legendary creature, human, 2/2. When Astrid Path enters the battlefield or attacks, create a food token. So we got another food commander. Definitely didn't need more of that, but this is a little bit different, thankfully. Whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, Astrid Path explores. So again with the exploring, so now we got a couple of exploring commanders. And I added this one into the mix for a very specific reason because, again, I've already talked about these commanders in the 99, that the overlap is becoming really, really common so that you are more and more, and I guess I talked about this in the EDH Rec Stats video as well, about how we're getting more legendary creatures in the 99 because there are just so many commanders now. So again, this card is going to be like maybe the white version of Academy Manufactor. And again, when that card came out in Modern Horizons 2 so long ago, I said, watch this, go grab your copy now, because I knew, okay, maybe this isn't great now because there was like one food commander at the time, like one clue commander at the time, right? Maybe a couple treasure commanders, but I knew they were going to be going down that road. That's why I said, grab your copy now. And sure enough, we've had 1,000 just in this set alone. How many more Investigate, Clue, Food, right? All of that. And Astrid Path is going to be the same, where Academy Manufactor is going to go in the deck, of course, but whenever you sacrifice a clue or food, okay, so any food deck that is going to be in white is going to want it because now I get to explore. Just a nice little added bonus. And again, here's another card that might have to go in my Denic deck because I'm sacking clues all the time. Exploring is... yeah, I got a bit of an recursion theme there too, so I could throw creatures in my graveyard and get them back. Ooh, boy. And it's also a 2-mana creature with a 2/2 toughness power, which really, this one I'm definitely going to have to, that's a great fit in my Denic deck. And then also, I mean, the food tokens I don't care about, but again, I have cards like Sage of Latinam in there where I can sacrifice those food tokens to draw cards, right? So great fit. All right, moving on. The War Doctor, 2 red and a white, Time Lord Doctor, 3/5. Whenever one or more other permanents phase out, and whenever one or more other cards are put into exile from anywhere, put a time counter on the War Doctor. And I saw that and I'm like, I got to talk about this guy right away. I didn't even read the other ability. What does the other ability do? Whenever the War Doctor attacks, it deals damage equal to the number of time counters on it to any target. If a creature is dealt damage this way, if it would die, exile it instead. So nice little added bonus to a really, really neat build around ability. And of course, they didn't put this guy in blue, even though I think they easily could have. I think all the other doctors are blue. So again, flavor-wise, I'm not sure. That's not my thing. Obviously, blue is the best color for that. It was mostly the only color that did phasing originally back in like Mirage Block when they first brought it out. So there's a ton there that you won't be able to use, unfortunately. There's quite a bit in white, and this is finally we have a deck that you can put Crystal Golem in. Yes, we finally have a deck for that really bad card, because that guy, I believe, phases out either on your upkeep or on your end step. I can't remember which. And so he's just going to put a counter on your guy, right? Because this is whenever one more other permanents phase. This is any permanent, by the way. So we can also throw another one of my favorite janky cards, Equipoise, in this deck. That's why I love when I see commanders like this, I'm like, oh man, that's great. Now I can throw Equipoise in there and you can just phase out whatever of your opponents, but it's gonna trigger your commander, put some counters on them, and any attacks, man, throw 4, 5, 6 damage around every time he attacks. That's pretty great. So, of course, again, you're going to have to build around that. As I say all the time, Power Matrix, that's my go-to for. I have essentially a vanilla commander with no evasion that I want to be getting the attack trigger with, or maybe a deal damage trigger with. Again, you could throw that in the Jenny deck as well. Power Matrix is great there, mostly because it just gives the flying. Gives a lot of other stuff as well, but mostly for the flying. Just a colorless option that's great for that. Because, of course, you don't have to be attacking, though. That's the great thing. I mean, you'd kind of be wasting it if you weren't. I probably do want to attack with my commander all the time so I can throw that damage around, go face to one of my opponents, worst case scenario. But pick off the best creature on the board is pretty darn good, too. But, again, I love the command. Like, deep dive, go find. I mean, there's not going to be a ton. I don't think there's any in red. I think there's a few white ones, and then there's probably a couple of colorless options as well. I don't think there's any red ones. There's not a lot. How much more are they going to have in this set? I imagine they'll probably have a few in this set that can fit in there. But again, anytime your opponent casts a Teferi's Protection, now at least you're getting something out of it, right? I mean, this is one or more, so you're only going to get one counter, but still. Pretty neat. All right, and lastly today, we're going to talk about what I think is probably, again, I love those deep dive commanders where let's figure out how to make this good. And this is the one, again, that I saw and I'm like, oh man, that's really unique and interesting. So Idris, Soul of the TARDIS. And I don't know if you're supposed to yell that whenever you see it, but it's in all caps. 1 blue and a red human incarnation. That's very interesting. Might be the first incarnation legendary creature we've ever had. I think. I mean, I haven't seen that creature type in forever. 3/3 has Vanishing 3, definitely the only legendary creature with Vanishing on it. So, of course, that means it's got those 3 time counters on it. You're going to remove one on your upkeep, and when the last one's gone, so is your commander. That's not great. You can proliferate the counters, right? There's lots of ways to get around it, of course. But let's see what it does. When Idris, Soul of the TARDIS, enters the battlefield. When Idris, Soul of the TARDIS enters the battlefield, exile another artifact you control until Idris leaves the battlefield. Okay, so you're doing that Oblivion Ring effect on your own artifact. Idris has all activated and triggered abilities of the exiled card and gets +X/+X, where X is the exiled card's mana value. So I guess I could exile my Meteor Golem. Wouldn't be horrible to do so. It has no activated abilities. It has triggered abilities. Hold on. When it enters the battlefield. Okay, so if I exile my Meteor Golem, let's play through what's going to happen here. It has all the activated and triggered abilities, but of course that triggered ability is an ETB. And again, getting into the rules here, you're not going to get that ETB. Your commander's already on the battlefield when this ability triggers. So you will not get that ETB, the destroy permanent ETB. Your commander will be a 10/10. That's pretty big, right? Because the guy's a 7 mana value, right? So if you want a 10/10 vanilla creature, I mean, I guess you could do that. I don't think that's a great route to go, and that's certainly not the interesting. Like, you could completely do without the +X+. I mean, I guess it makes a good blocker. No, what you want is that activated triggered ability thing, and oh man, there's got to be some interesting ways to use this. Maybe you could play into the Vanishing 3 as well. I'll just say, and I'm not going to throw out a bunch of ideas. Maybe I'll try to come up with something for a later video, but I'll just say with the Vanishing 3, there's just a lot of ways you can get around that. Like, Conjurer's Closet, I blink my commander, comes back in. And again, you probably would want some blinking in here anyway, so that I can switch with what I want. The Marisol decks, right, from back in the day that, again, used to be a really popular, really powerful commander. There was a commander that they did that deep dive looking for those artifacts that they could copy with their commander. That might be one if you're thinking about this. Go look at that commander. That's Grixis, so you're not going to have the black, but you are going to have the blue and the red, and of course that's creature. You're not going to have that, but you are going to have, there might be some interesting finds there for artifacts that you might want to copy. The options are almost endless here, I'm sure. What could you do with this? I don't know, but it's super, super interesting. And again, I love these deep dive commanders where you can find interesting ways to build around them. Really neat for sure. So there you go. 5 interesting commanders. And, again, there's a ton of legendary. I don't know how many cards are in this set, but man, there's going to be a lot of legendary creatures from this set. So a lot of commanders to talk about. Again, I don't know how I'm going to tackle the overall evaluation. Definitely going to have to make a video talking about the really great 99 cards from this set that we're going to see a ton in the commander format. And I'll make some variation of a video talking about the commanders from this set as well. So stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of these new commanders. I think there's some really neat ones here. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.